About once or twice a week. I stop at McDonald's on the way to work to get breakfast. I really like the sausage burritos they have, so I usually order two of those with hot sauce and a medium cup of coffee. One particular Friday morning, I placed my order like I normally do. When I pulled up to the first window, the drive-thru cashier who took my debit card was especially perky and said, "Thank you, have a nice day," in an overly enthusiastic way. More so than someone just having a bubbly personality. It almost sounded sarcastic, but still polite, so I figured that I was just seeing something that wasn't there. There was one really odd thing though. When she handed me my debit card back, she was thanking me. It felt hot to touch. I had just handed it to her a few seconds before, and it was only out of my possession long enough for the cashier to charge my card for my breakfast and hand it back to me. I'd never experienced anything like that before, but I thought I must be still making out of nothing. I put my card back into my wallet and forgot about it. Later that day, during my lunch break, I decided to eat at Taco Bell. I went through the drive-thru and ordered a $5 box. I had completely forgotten about breakfast that morning, but when I handed my debit card to the drive-thru cashier at Taco Bell, he reacted as if it were hot. I immediately remembered what had happened that morning. The Taco Bell employee didn't say anything about it, but carefully handed back to me by its edge. I thought to myself that I was really imagining some strange things, that I had probably should go to bed early that night, just to get caught up on sleep. It wasn't until the day that I started to actually get concerned. When I woke up, I was reading the local news website and saw a headline that read, "Taco Bell employee dies in a bizarre accident." I clicked on the article, and there was a picture of the guy that I handed my debit card to at lunch the day before. According to the article, he had tripped and fallen face first into one of the steamers, to which was active and hot. The article reported that witness said they saw him fall and scream, and his face hit the surface of the steamer. They said that he put his hands on the counter to push himself away from it, but the screaming that he was stuck and could not pull away. By the time his co-workers helped pull him off, they said half of his face had been completely burned though, and they said that the steamer was actually glowing orange too with heat, and that it was far hotter than it should supposed to be able to get. The heat and burns were so intense that the employees soon died later. I was on the read article online with a sense of dread set in, but I kept telling myself logically it was just some weird coincidence. I remembered that I had used my debit card 2 more times since then, once to buy a DVD at Walmart, had a chance to get gas after that. In both instances, I hadn't paid attention to when handing my debit card to the cashiers, but now that I had read the news story about the Taco Bell employee, I started to try remembering if either of them had acted strangely. About that time, I realized I had forgotten to buy a couple of items while I was working at Walmart, and since it was a Saturday I didn't have to work, I figured I'd just go back and get the rest of the items that I need. When I arrived at Walmart, there was a police line right in front of the entrances, with several police cars and a fire truck in the parking lot, all of them with their lights flashing. There were a lot of Walmart employees standing around in the parking lot. I asked one of them what happened. She said that the manager had not given them much information, but rumor has it that one of the employees had been found hanging by the neck in the back of the stockroom. Fearing for the worst, I asked if it was a man or a woman, and asked what the employee looked like. But the worker that I was talking to must have thought it was strange that I wanted to know what that person looked like. But she told me that it was a middle-aged woman. She described the woman looked like to me, and it was the exact same match for that person that had rung up my items the night before. When she said that the woman's name was Susan, I knew it was the same woman because I remembered having noticed her name because some of the glittery stickers she had on her name tag. At that point, I was genuinely freaked out, but I immediately decided to go to the gas station where I had used my card to get gas the night before so that I wouldn't appear much obvious. I made up a story saying that the employee from the night before had given me too much change when I paid for gas. When I got to the gas station, I asked the person working on the counter if there was a way I could get in touch with the person who was working in the previous night. They gave him my made-up story about giving too much change. The worker told me that the worker from the night before wasn't there, but strangely enough, he was supposed to have worked the whole night shift. He told me that he was the other employee's morning relief shift, but that was when he arrived this morning. The previous night worker was nowhere to be found. He'd figured that he said he'd left early and was going to report it to a manager, but hadn't. I had thanked him for this time, gave him $1 out of my pocket to repay the change back to the store, even though that hadn't happened, and left. After all this, I decided that it was time to go back to the McDonald's store. When I got there, I asked the manager about the girl who was working the drive-thru the previous morning when I had bought breakfast. I described her, but the manager just gave me a strange look. He told me that there was only one female worker in the previous morning, that she was quite a bit older than the girl I had described. He had said no other female workers were in the restaurant at the time, and that the older woman who was working was currently cleaning tables in the dining room. I turned to look around, but the woman I saw was much older, had completely different hair color and style than the girl who had taken my debit card the day before. The manager also said that there was no employees working there who matched the description I gave them. I rushed home and cut up my credit card and threw it out. An hour later, when I opened up my wallet, it was right back in the card holder where I normally kept it. Since then, I have tried burning the card, putting the card in the dumpster several miles from home, and just plain scratching it up. No matter what I do, it keeps returning in perfect condition. When I sleep, I often think if I see a faint glow and a humming sound coming from my wallet. But when I get out of bed and pick the wallet back up, it stops. Sometimes I think I see enthusiastic over the smile from the girl at the McDonald's is right in front of me in the dark, and it often keeps me awake at night. I find myself shivering in the dark, wondering what was going on. I've tried looking for that girl everywhere I go, but I can't find her. I keep seeing her face and her odd smile, but I can't find her. I feel like I should report this to someone, but I'm afraid they'll think I'm somehow involved.